Welcome back to First Moveable Guitar Chords. This book focuses on 8 movable chord shapes. We're on pages 28 through 31, and this is the last lesson in this book. In the first part of this lesson, we're going to go over some more power chord exercises. After that, I'm going to show you some additional chord shapes that we did not cover in this book, but those will be useful for learning songs in the future. And then I want to mention that we have some blank chord diagrams in the very back. Feel free to print those out and use them as much as you like. Now, in First Moveable Guitar Chords, we focused on 8 shapes, 2 each of major, minor, diminished, and power chord shapes. There are plenty more chords to learn, so if you feel like branching out, please check out my books Rhythm Guitar 3 or 3-Note Jazz Guitar Chords. And if you'd like to learn how to read and play melodies in standard notation, check out my Melody Guitar series. I'll leave links for all my books in the description. The power chord exercises on page 28 do not include string numbers for finding our roots. We need to figure that out for ourselves, so let's look at number 45 and start with this C5, or C power chord. We have a couple choices for where we want to play our C5. We can play it at the 3rd fret on the 5th string. That's where the C root would be. Or our other C is on the 8th fret on the 6th string. I'm going to start with the root on the 6th string, and in just a minute I'll explain why. So you find your C on the 6th string, that's at the 8th fret, play your power chord. We want to find a nearby F for our F5, and we have a very close F on the 5th string at the 8th fret as well. And we play our power chord from there. Then we have a B flat 5, there's a close B flat to that F on the 6th string, 6th fret. And that's where we place our power chord shape. And then we have an E flat 5. The closest E flat, I should say, is our 5th string, 6th fret. We play the power chord from there. Now here's why I didn't do the C starting on the 5th string, 3rd fret. It starts off okay. There's our C at the 3rd fret, play our power chord. The closest F for that would be at the 1st fret, 6th string. So far so good. And then we have a B flat power chord. There's also one very close at the 1st fret, 5th string. But then we have a big jump to get up to the E flat 5. And in general, we want to try to play our chords close to each other. So to avoid that jump, I just started on the C5 at the 8th fret and worked my way down to the E flat that way. Anyway, from there, we're moving on to the 2nd line. You can play the C5 the same way. As a matter of fact, it's all the same chords. C5, F5, B flat 5, and E flat 5, or E flat power chord. Once you've figured out where you're going to play all these chords, go ahead and play through the exercise. Nice moderate pace. It's not about speed, it's about finding these chords. C5, 2, 3, F5. B flat power chord, 2, 3, 4, E flat. Back to your C, F, B flat, and E flat power chord. Number 46 begins with an A flat 5 or A flat power chord. Let's figure out where we're going to play our first power chord, and then we'll take it from there. We have 2 choices for our A flat power chord root. One would be on the 6th string, 4th fret, and the other would be on the 5th string at the 11th fret. I want to play this more in the middle of the fretboard, so we're going to do this A flat 5 with the root on string 6, fret 4, and of course you play your power chord shape from there. Next, we want to find a close E flat for our E flat 5 or E flat power chord. You're actually putting your 3rd finger on it right now. That's at the 5th string, 6th fret. And you play that power chord shape. Next power chord, we're looking for a B flat 5. The closest B flat is right there at the 6th fret as well, just on the 6th string. There's our root. There's our power chord. Now we have an F5, and we have a couple good, bad choices here. Either way, we're going to be doing some scooting around on the fretboard. One choice will be to play our F5 at the 8th fret on the 5th string. Now that's not such a bad move right there. The shift comes when we have to play an A flat 5 again at the beginning of the next line, moving all the way down to 4th fret. So our other choice after we play our B flat 5 is to make a big move, go down to the F5 with your root on the 1st fret on the 6th string, and from there you can scoot up a little bit to your A flat 5. And I am going to choose to play this low F, mainly because if I'm going to have to make a big shift, I would rather make that big shift staying on the same string, so that's just one less thing I could possibly mess up. It's going to be easier to mess up going from this F and then switching strings, going to the A flat. It's going to be a little easier to go from this B flat, keeping the same shape, sliding down to the F and back up to the A flat. Anyway, from there we have the same chords as before: E flat 5, B flat 5, and F5. And just because I played the F down here earlier, I'm going to go ahead and play that F5 at the 1st fret 6th string again. But if you like, nothing wrong with playing it up at the 8th fret. Once you've figured out where you're going to play those chords, especially that F5, go ahead and play through the exercise, nice moderate speed, whatever strumming pattern you like. A flat 5, 2, 3, E flat, B flat, F, slide back up to A flat, E flat, B flat, and F. Number 47 begins with an F5. Now in number 46, we talked about which F5 to play. We need to make that decision in this one as well. In number 46, I talked about how you could play your F5 with the root on string 5, fret 8, or string 6, fret 1. And you could do either one, but I chose the lower one. Now if we start on that same F5 in number 47, not too tricky to get to the B flat 5. That's going to be at the 1st fret on the 5th string, but then we have a big jump to get up to the E5. So for this one, I'm going to play my F5 starting on the 8th fret, 5th string. So there's my F root, there's my F power chord. Our closest B flat to that F is on string 6, fret 6. There's our root, there's our power chord. Next we have an E5 or E power chord. The closest E for our root note is at the 7th fret, and there's our power chord. And then we move to an A power chord, or A5. The closest one to that is on the 5th fret, 6th string. So there's our root, there's our power chord. There's a pattern to follow as we go through the rest of this exercise. Our root movement moving from F to B flat was 5th string, and then 2 frets over on the 6th string. Same with your E to your A. That's on our 5th string, 7th fret, and then 2 frets to the left on the 6th string is the root for your A. And that's going to continue. We're going to play an E flat 5 or E flat power chord. That's going to be with the root on string 5, fret 6. So there's our root, there's our power chord. Moving to an A flat 5, that'll be on string 6, fret 4. There's our root, there's our power chord, and continuing the pattern, D5, our D root note is on the 5th string, 5th fret, so there's our root, there's our power chord, and then to the G5, the closest one is on string 6, fret 3. There's our root, there's our power chord. So here's our pattern. Once you're comfortable with those chords and that pattern, play the exercise. F5, 2, 3, 4, B flat. E power chord, A. E flat power chord, A5, flat, D, and G. Number 48 begins on a G5. Even though we normally try to play kind of in the middle of the fretboard, I would recommend starting this G5 on 5th string, 10th fret as our root. The reason for that is, if we start with the G down here on the 3rd fret of the 6th string, our closest C would be on the 5th string, 3rd fret, no problem there. And then our closest F would be on the 1st fret of the 6th string, no problem there. Then we have a big jump to a B flat. However, if you start on this G up here, you'll find that you'll just kind of work your way down the fretboard. So that's the way we're going to do this. So G, root, string 5, fret 10, that's our root, and there's our power chord. The closest C for our C5 is on the 8th fret, 6th string. There's our root, there's the power chord, and a very close F, also at the 8th fret, but on the 5th string. There's the root, there's the power chord. Then we have another F5 going to B flat 5. The closest B flat to that is on string 6, fret 6. There's the root, there's the power chord, and then an E flat 5, the closest E flat is string 5, fret 6. There's our root, there's our power chord. Line 2, another E flat 5, and then moving to A flat 5. Our closest A flat is on the 6th string, 4th fret. There's the root, there's the power chord. Moving to a D flat 5 or D flat power chord. The closest D flat is right there at the 4th fret as well on the 5th string. And next we're moving to a C sharp 5, only we're not moving. D flat and C sharp are enharmonically equivalent. They're the same note. So even though it looks different on paper, it's the same. So D flat 5, C sharp 5, same thing. Moving to an F sharp 5, the closest F sharp is 2nd fret, 6th string. There's our root, there's our power chord, and then ending on a B5 or B power chord, the closest B is right there at the 2nd fret as well. There's our root, there's our power chord. And once you've figured out where to play all those chords, play the exercise. G, C, F, 2, 3, 4, F, B flat, E flat, 2, 3, 4, E flat, A flat, D flat, 2, 3, 4, C sharp, the same note, F sharp, and B. Throughout this book, you learn movable major, minor, dominant 7, and power chord shapes. There are plenty of other chord shapes to learn, and you can see a few of them on page 30. Now, most of these shapes we did not cover in this book, but you handle them the same way. You figure out what your root note is supposed to be, where it is on the fretboard, and then you place the root of that shape on that note. We're going to quickly go over these, and I'm just going to play every one of these as some sort of C chord. The first two chords are major shapes. We're just going to gloss over these since we covered these in the book, but we have a major shape with a root on the 6th string and a major shape with a root on the 5th string. Next we have major 7 chord shapes. These are really pretty and they can substitute for major shapes. Here's a major 7 shape with a root on string 6, fingers 1, 3, 4, and 2, and I'm muting the first string with depends on your hand size and your guitar, but I'm muting it kind of at the base of my first finger there. And I'm also using my first finger, it's kind of flattened out, I'm muting the 5th string. And then a major 7 shape with the root on the 5th string, finger 1, 3, 2, and 4, not playing the 6th string. And I'm only playing the middle 4 strings, but if you like, you could also bar the first string, make it a slightly bigger chord. I tend to like to play smaller chords, so I usually play just the middle 4 strings. Next we have major 6 shapes. These can also substitute for major chords. Major 6 with the root on string 6, finger 2, 1, 4, 3, and just like the major 7 chord with the root on the 6th string, we're muting the 1st string and the 5th string. And another major 6 chord with the root on the 5th string, finger 4, 2, 3, and 1, and we're muting string 1 and muting or just not playing string 6. The minor shapes, we've studied these in the book. I'm just going to play them really quickly. Here's a minor shape with a root on the 6th string, and a minor shape with a root on the 5th string. Next we have minor 7 shapes. You'll often play minor 7s in place of minor chords in jazz and blues in particular. Minor 7 shape with a root on the 6th string. So I'm placing my 2nd finger on the root, and I'm barring strings 2, 3, and 4 with my 3rd string. Now it's not as tricky as it looks at first. Basically my 3rd finger goes down, my 2nd finger slightly goes over the 3rd finger. To play the root, it mutes the 5th string, and it also gives the 3rd finger a little bit of support. We are also muting the 1st string. And then another minor 7 shape with a root on the 5th string. This is finger 1, 3, 1, and 2. So first finger is barring strings 3 through 5. And if you like, you could also bar the 1st string, get that one extra note. If you want a bigger chord, I tend to, again, go for the middle 4 strings myself. Minor 7 flat 5 chords are also known as half diminished chords. They do not substitute for minor or minor 7 chords. It is a chord that you'll see quite often, especially blues and especially in jazz. Minor 7 flat 5 shape with a root on the 6th string. Finger 2, 3, 4, and 1. And as with a lot of these chords, you are muting string 1 and string 5, and another minor 7 flat 5 or half diminished shape with the root on the 5th string, finger 1, 3, 2, and 4. And this time you definitely do not bar the 1st string, it's just those middle 4 strings. You can often substitute minor 6 chords for minor chords. Here's a minor 6 with the root on the 6th string, finger 2, 1, 3, 4, and again muting strings 1 and 5. And another minor 6 shape with the root on the 5th string, finger 3, 1, 2, and 1. So finger 1 is barring strings 1 through 3, and we are muting 1st string and 6th string. We covered dominant 7 or 7th chord shapes in this book, so I'm going to play these real quick. Dominant 7 or 7th chord shape with the root on the 6th string. And I showed this shape throughout the book, finger 1, 2, 4, and 3, muting strings 1 and 5. But you can also play this bigger shape if you like that. And the other shape with the dominant 7 chords is basically a C7 shape, but you're muting strings 1 and 6. Diminished 7 chords are often used as passing chords. Diminished 7 shape with the root on the 6th string, finger 2, 1, 3, and 1. So finger 1 is barring strings 2 through 4, and you're again muting strings 1 and 5. And then another diminished 7 shape with the root on the 5th string, finger 3, 1, 2, and 1. You may have noticed that this diminished 7 shape is identical to the minor 6 shape with the root on the 5th string. The reason for that is this particular shape leaves out one note, and that one note that's left out is the one note that makes a difference between a minor 6 and a diminished 7. So you can play this shape for both types of chords. Our last chord type is augmented, and this is just a 3-note chord, finger 3, 2, and 1. And we are muting or just not playing the other 3 strings. And then here's an augmented with the root on the 5th string. Same shape, 3, 2, 1. And we are not playing strings 1, 2, or 5. Your assignment is to practice these last 4 exercises, and then you're done. If you'd like to take a deep dive into movable chords, check out my Rhythm Guitar Book 3. And if you like jazz and blues, check out 3-Note Jazz Guitar Chords. And for melody playing, check out my Melody Guitar series. I'll leave links for all my books in the description. And for more guitar lessons, please subscribe.